Number 1. Justine Damond. Justine Damond, a vibrant Australian-American spirit, wasn't just a statistic on a news report. Born under Sydney's sunny skies in 1977, she blossomed on the northern beaches, graduating from Manly High before pursuing a healing path. In 2002, the University of Sydney awarded her a veterinary degree, but her passions extended beyond animals. Justine became a meditation coach and spiritual healer, showing her desire to nurture well-being. Love led her to Minneapolis in 2017, where she built a new life with her husband. However, a fateful summer night in July tragically cut her journey short. On that warm evening, concern for her community triggered Justine to call 911 twice. The first call hinted at a potential assault, a disturbing sound echoing from the alley behind her home. The dispatcher, prioritizing calls, categorized it as a low priority. Not giving up, Justine called again, her voice laced with growing anxiety. Yet reassurance came that help was on its way. Meanwhile, officers Mohammed Noor and Matthew Harity arrived at the scene. Finding no evidence of the reported incident, a frantic Justine ran out of her house as they were about to leave. Barefoot and clad in pajamas, she approached their squad car, her voice presumably high with worry. Tragically, the situation escalated. Officer Harity, startled, drew his weapon downwards. In a split second, a different officer, Noor, took a drastic step. He fired a single shot through the open car window, hitting the unarmed Justine in the abdomen. Despite their efforts, she succumbed to her injuries 20 minutes later. The shooting sparked outrage. The narrative of police brutality dominated the whole area, and rightfully so. The officer's decision to shoot was an overreaction to an unarmed civilian, raising serious questions about training and de-escalation tactics. The case became national news. 2 years later, justice, albeit imperfect, was served. Officer Noor received a 12.5-year sentence for manslaughter and murder charges. Number 2. Melissa Perez. On a fateful June night in 2023, a mental health crisis in San Antonio turned into a heartbreaking tragedy. Melissa Perez, a 46-year-old woman, found herself in a breakdown around 2 a.m. Alarmed by her behavior, neighbors called the authorities, reporting that Melissa was tampering with the building's fire alarm system. Initially, firefighters arrived to assess the situation. When attempts to understand Melissa's actions proved fruitless, the police were called in. 3 officers, Sergeant Alfred Flores, Eleazar Alejandro, and Nathaniel Villalobos, entered the scene to de-escalate the situation. However, things took a turn for the worse. As officers approached Melissa, she retreated into her apartment, a natural reaction fueled by fear and confusion. Instead of establishing a calm dialogue, the officers followed her inside. Negotiations were attempted through a window, but tensions escalated further when Melissa, in a desperate act, threw a glass candle holder towards one officer. Luckily, it missed its target. This minor incident became a big deal. Threats were exchanged, and Melissa, in a further display of distress, threw a hammer at the open window, shattering the glass barrier. In a moment of panic, one officer fired a shot but thankfully missed. The situation transformed into a terrifying standoff, causing all 3 officers to discharge their weapons. The hail of bullets tragically claimed Melissa's life. The aftermath was swift. The officers, facing murder charges, lost their jobs and were arrested. Bail was set at $100,000, which they met, leaving the fate of Melissa and the officers hanging in the balance as they await their trial. Number 3. Christopher Williams. The air was thick with unspoken tension in the dimly lit Pitson bar on that July night in 2017. Christopher Williams, a 32-year-old man, was locked in a casual pool game with Steven Spencer, an African-American patron. What began as a friendly competition turned into a heated exchange. To bridge the growing gap, Spencer extended a hand for a handshake, a gesture of peace. However, Williams refused, and as response caused a verbal rant. Racial slurs, coded with malice, flowed from Williams' mouth, poisoning the atmosphere. Fear gripped Spencer. The casual game had turned into a hostile situation. Feeling threatened and under attack, Spencer drew his weapon. A single shot rang out, silencing the bar and shattering the peace. Williams, unarmed and caught off guard, fell victim to the bullet. The weight of his actions settled on Spencer like a heavy cloud. He was filled with guilt as he realized he had taken a life. Yet moved by a sense of responsibility, he did not run. Instead, he surrendered himself to the authorities, facing charges of criminal homicide, assault, and threats. The legal battle stretched on for over a year. Finally, the day of judgment arrived. Spencer transformed from a carefree civilian to a man fighting for his freedom and took the stand. He recounted the evidence of that fateful night, his voice thick with emotion. He spoke of the racial taunts he endured, the fear that stalked him, and the desperate act of self-defense. The prosecution painted a different picture. They argued that the shooting was not a response to the barroom confrontation, but a disproportionate reaction. They contended that Spencer could have chosen to retreat instead of resorting to gunfire. The jury, however, saw things differently. In a landmark decision, they acquitted Spencer on all charges. This outcome was influenced by several factors, including Spencer's clean record, his status as a law-abiding gun owner with a permit, and his portrayal as a responsible family man. As Spencer walked out of the courthouse, a free man, the weight of the past 15 months lifted from his shoulders. "I fought for my life," he declared, his voice hoarse with relief. And finally, justice has been served. Number 4. Rena James. On July 4, 2022, Bedford, UK, witnessed a horrifying event. Rena James, a resident in a shared apartment complex, was involved in a protracted dispute with her upstairs neighbors. The national lockdown in 2020 forced everyone to work from home, increasing tensions. Rena's complaints about early morning laundry cycles, loud voices, and disruptive behavior toward children seemed to fall on deaf ears. The management company, the police, counselors, and even her landlord all appeared indifferent to her pleas. Frustration turned into a desperate desire for a solution, one Rena tragically took upon herself. Rena made a dangerous decision on that fateful morning, driven by a perceived lack of reasoning. Armed with a hammer and a gallon of petrol, she stormed into the vacant apartment above hers. Her intention? To set their belongings ablaze in a vengeful act. Blinded by rage, she smashed the lock, filled the interior with petrol, and started a fire. What followed was something far beyond her control. The explosion tore through the building, a roar echoing for half a mile. Residents, gripped with fear, searched for safety, some resorting to jumping from windows, sustaining horrific injuries. The irony of the situation was apparent. Rena, the architect of the destruction, became an unintended casualty. The force of the blast pushed her down to the ground floor, where she suffered a fractured skull and broken ribs. Though a neighbor managed to pull her semi-conscious from the flames, she gave in to her injuries before medical help arrived. And number 5, Karen Gillis. On April 15, 2023, a vibrant young woman named Karen Gillis was tragically taken from this world at the age of 20. A recent graduate of Skyville High School in New York, Karen wasn't just a student, she was a shining member of the cheerleading team. Known for her infectious energy and popularity, loved by her friends and dating one of the most incredible guys in school, Blake Walsh, Karen seemed to be on the path to a bright future. Unfortunately, fate had a different plan. They made a wrong turn while traveling to a party in rural New York with Blake and 2 other friends. They ended up in a secluded area with limited phone service and realized they were lost. Coming across a residence, they stopped to ask for directions. This seemingly harmless interaction with a resident named Kevin Monahan became a nightmare. The details surrounding the incident remain unclear. According to Blake and the other witnesses, a brief conversation with Mr. Monahan escalated into a confrontation. Mr. Monahan claims a large group of motorcycles and cars arrived at his property, disturbing him. Tragically, the encounter ended with Mr. Monahan allegedly firing upon their car as they attempted to leave. Despite Blake's efforts to escape, a bullet struck Kaylin. Sadly, she gave up before receiving medical attention. The true nature of the events leading to the shooting remains under investigation. Whether Mr. Monahan intended to cause harm or simply acted out of fear is yet to be determined. However, authorities did confirm the presence of multiple vehicles and a motorcycle in the area, along with the fact that the shots were fired as the group was already leaving. Following the incident, Mr. Monahan was arrested and charged with second-degree murder. In the face of this unimaginable loss, Karen's family established a GoFundMe campaign to cover funeral expenses. The response from the community has been an outpouring of love and support, with over $147,000 raised in her memory. In a heartfelt statement, Karen was remembered as a devoted friend, partner, daughter, and big sister, whose kindness, humor, and love left a lasting impression on everyone who knew her. Thank you for watching the video until the end. If you enjoyed it, please like, share, and subscribe.